I'm actually trained as a therapist. I was a therapist for a number of years in Alabama, and I worked with battered women, depressed women, and transients. So I guess that led the way to my career in the arts somehow. I owned a gallery with my brother for 26 years, where we featured contemporary craft and two-dimensional artwork. And at one point, it became very clear that craft was not an accepted form of art or fine art. And it made me a little crazy. So I called my brother one day and I said, let's start a museum and incorporate craft and design. And he laughed at me, as brothers do, and said, I thought of it, but I don't know what to do. And I said, oh, I've been on a board, I can figure it out. And I can raise some money. And I really, true confession, I had no idea what I was getting into or what I was doing. So that's where it all began. I called some key people to run the idea by them. No one told me I was crazy. I'm very passionate about craft. And we, through the gallery, learned to love these artists and they became our friends. And museums were not featuring craft. They weren't even talking about it. I had some people say, keep craft out of your name, out of the museum's name, or you won't be able to raise money. And so we thought it was pretty adventurous to have a museum of craft and design. I'm very stubborn. In the early 90s is when I became aware of this field, late 80s, early 90s. And we met the artists and they were so authentic and talented, and so many were struggling to make a living, and work wasn't as valued as it should have been. My husband and I started collecting at that point. It was not easy, and I've earned every gray hair that I have. It's daunting to think about starting a museum in San Francisco, a city that's already rich with museums and followers and supporters, and we were rebels in a way. And I just felt very determined to continue pushing on this. I didn't see it as an adventure. Some people thought, what a fun adventure you're on. And I'm just thinking, this is going to be life-altering for craft artists. I believe that. And it needed to be that. Otherwise, the purpose isn't there. So there were many sleepless nights and years and months and trying to make payroll and making sure my staff was taken care of. And it was just one foot ahead of the other and a lot of stress. So, there's no secret there. But we were tenacious, we were resilient, and we always landed on our feet. And it was very interesting to me that after 7 years into our museum, the DeYoung took the Sachs collection, which has a lot of craft. The MFA Houston, the MFA Boston, they all now have craft collections. So things started to change. So I like to think that our museum helped make that change. But we just had to keep putting it forward. And I was unapologetic. I just didn't want to waste any time there. I felt this is art, it's a different medium, and we get to have a variety of mediums, whether it's metal, glass, paper, wood, clay. It didn't matter. It was just art in a different medium. There were two focuses to why we started the museum. One was to give craft artists and designers their due and a platform, a significant platform where they could show, and also create a museum space that was not intimidating. So many museums are more formal, or they were at the time. We wanted a space where everyone was welcome, or someone could walk in the front door and feel comfortable. And so I still think that today, 20 plus years later, we've accomplished that. And we continue to accomplish it. The craft world has changed for the better. And the artists stuck it out. And I salute them. When we moved to Dogpatch, we really were pioneers there. It was a time when cabs wouldn't go there. Uber drivers, if they even existed then, wouldn't pick you up there. It was challenging. I still felt that it was the place for us. Behind roll-up doors, creative things were happening, and you could feel it. It was palpable. So I think that was a turning point for us. We landed in our permanent home, and it was just like putting on a very comfortable shoe. We don't have a permanent collection, which was by design. We didn't want to house or care for a permanent collection, and we wanted to remain fresh and nimble and not be beholden to a permanent collection. So because I was in this field prior to this for almost 30 years, I knew a lot of people, and I made those connections, and they introduced me to their connections. And so that was part of it. We also had guest curators, and so that would bring a new voice to what we were doing. So I think through that process of discovery and traveling and looking and seeing, we were able to find some really wonderful, unusual things and give credit to artists and makers. But I just think keeping open eyes and paying attention was key. And asking questions, trying to get introductions, and not being shy about it. In showing the work that we did, often it meant collectors were paying more attention, galleries were paying more attention, and really that was our hope, to get them the attention we felt was deserved. And then what happens after that happens. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but we were not as focused on that. We just wanted to create the platform and show the best work that we possibly could. It doesn't mean necessarily the work was always pretty or shiny, but and I can't define what good means, but it had to be good. I see the craft field now as having more possibilities. I think there was a time when it was very siloed. And so there was studio furniture, there was, clay, glass, wood, metal. And now there's a lot of crossover. Artists are working in different mediums, they're blending mediums. And I think that allows for even more creativity. It's not so much just an object. Social justice plays into things now. Important messaging. So not just the beauty of an object, but what's the message of a body of work? And I think that makes us look at everything differently. And that's where art and community come together. And that's what's so needed now with everything going on in the world.